Hi everybody, this is Ms. Shing and Ms. Padmini with the admirable help of Mr. Steven, and this is your teachable moment. When you have a certain number of tiles, how do you know what kind of rectangle you can make with it? We're going to ask that question. Supposing we have 8 tiles. We have 8 tiles and we can make a rectangle, and we don't know what shape this rectangle is going to be. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tiles. And let's write the number 8 down on our paper, and you can put a circle around it because that's the number for which we're going to find 2 factors. 1, 2. We're going to find 2 factors. What does it have to do with making a rectangle? When you make a rectangle, you can count the tiles on one side, and that's 1 factor. You can count the tiles on the other side, and that's the other factor. And another way to say that is you can count the rows, that's 1 factor. Count the columns, that's the other factor. So let's take these 8 tiles and make a rectangle. One kind of rectangle you could make is a very long and thin rectangle. So let's just put the 8 tiles in a row and you would have a rectangle. In a column, that's fine too. So you have 8 tiles in a column. So how many columns do you have? 1. And how many rows are there? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rows. Is that a rectangle? Do you call something that's so thin and long a rectangle? Actually, yes, that's a rectangle. It's a very thin and long rectangle. So our factors, the things you can multiply to make 8, are the number of columns, which is here, it is 1. So we can write down 1. And the number of rows, which is here, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. 8. And that tells us that 1 times 8 is 8. Or a 1 by 8 rectangle has 8 tiles in it. Is there another rectangle we can make with these 8 tiles? Could we make a rectangle with 2 columns? So let's move some tiles over. Let's move 1 tile over. That's the second column. And let's move some more to see if we can make a rectangle out of it. Not yet. Ah, that's a rectangle. Is that a rectangle? What kind of rectangle is it? When you describe the rectangle, you pretty much have the factors or the numbers you multiply to make the larger number. So, how many rows? We have 1, 2, 3, 4. How many columns? 1, 2. So, write down your number 8 again, and we're going to name the 2 factors. The number of rows is 4. The number of columns is 2. This is a 4 by 2 rectangle, and a 4 by 2 rectangle has 8 tiles, and 4 times 2 is 8. So shall we try a larger number of tiles? Let's take 18 tiles. 18 tiles. We already have 8 there. We're going to bring 10 more tiles in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, what kind of a shape can we make that is a rectangle with these tiles? Supposing, oh, I forgot to show that you can actually show this on your multiplication table. Let's bring the table and make sure that we understand how we know that you can make a rectangle with 8 tiles. Now, we're actually going to look for an 8 in the middle part of our multiplication table. Let's see, where can we find an 8? Is there an 8? There's an 8. Okay, there's an 8. So if you go to the left, you can see how many rows, 4 rows. If you go up, you can see how many columns, 2 columns, that's right. So 4 by 2 gives us 8. Can we find another 8? There's an 8. That one has 2 rows and 4 columns, and 2 by 4 gives us 8. Correct. Is there any other 8? I see, there's an 8, which was that first long rectangle we made. We made 1 column with 8 rows, or it could be 1 row with 8 columns. Where is the one for 1 row with 8 columns? Right there, there it is, 1 row, 8 columns. So there you have it. You can find the rectangles in your multiplication table as well. Now let's do the same thing with the number 18. Now if you have 18, now we will go look in the multiplication table again. We'll be looking for that 18 in the multiplication table. But in the meanwhile, let's see if we can try to guess. Supposing you already have this rectangle started with four tiles in each column. Let's make some more columns and see what happens. That took 4 more. That's 3 columns. That used up a bunch. Let's take up some more. Oops, we don't have enough tiles to make a 5th column. We used up 16 tiles and we have 18. It's not enough to make another column. So that's not it. So how about if we try making a rectangle with 3 tiles in each column? So let's take out the extra ones. Okay, now we have 3 tiles with 4 columns so far of 3 tiles each. Let's count how many we used. We used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And we have so many left. Let's make one more row of 3. 1, 2, 3. And we have 3 left. I think we can make one more row. 1, 2, 3. And we have it. It's a rectangle. How do you describe this rectangle? It is 3 rows of 6. It's a 3 by 6. Let's check that. Let's make sure we have the right number of columns. 1 column, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How many rows do we have? 1, 2, 3. So 3 by 6 rectangle, or 3 times 6 makes 18. 3 by 6, 3 times 6. Is there another rectangle we can make? I'm sure there is. Do you think we could make a rectangle that has 2 in each column? Let's see if we can do something with that. 2 in each column. We may have to move it over to the left a little bit, our rectangle, to make room. And there you go. Let's add some rows of 2. Do you think it's going to make a rectangle? Let's see. And here comes the last column. I think we have a rectangle. How do you describe this rectangle? This rectangle has 2 rows, and each row has, let's count to see how many on each row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 2 rows of 9 pieces. Or you can say how many columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 columns, and each column has 2 pieces. So we can write 9 by 2, 9 by 2, or 2 by 9 is also 18. You could also make, like we did with the 8, you could make a very thin and very long rectangle of 1 by 18, which we don't have room on the screen to do it, but you can do it on your own. Make a very long, thin rectangle of 1 by 18, and we'd have to look in our multiplication table to see if all these ways of making 18 show up in our table. Let's look for 18 on the table. And where can I find an 18? I see an 18 there. And look on the left. It's 2. And look above. It's 9. That's a 2 by 9 like we did. That's what you have on your screen in front of you in the rectangle. And can we find the 9 by 2? Where's the 9 by 2? Let's go down to the 9 and then see if we can find 18. There it is. And go up. And there's the 2. Yay, good job. Let's find another 18. We did a 3 by 6. So I wonder if we can find, there's the 6. And there you can find the 3. So notice where the 18 shows up. And each of those is a place where you will be able to make a rectangle. Is there one for on the 3's row? There it is, on 3 by 6, 3 by 6, very good. The 1 by 18 doesn't show up here because if you look at the 1's row, you go all the way out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. You don't have room, it goes off the screen for the 18. So, but if you were to write out your tables all the way out, you would be able to get 1 by 18, which would be that very long and thin rectangle. The same way if you went down the 1's column, if you see, look at the 1 and go down, you will see it goes all the way down to 12 and it would go off the screen to go to the 18. Same thing, 1 by 18, 18 by 1, 2 by 9, 9 by 2, 3 by 6, 6 by 3. So those are some of the ways in which you can make 18. Those are the factors of 18. 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6, and that's that. We can do one more in which we'll make a large rectangle of, maybe we can make a rectangle which is a square. Maybe we can make 36. Let's do 36. Can be made into a square, which we saw earlier, that if you have a 6 row rectangle, you would have 6 columns in it. So let's make a 6 by 6 just to see if that's correct. 4, 5, 6. And then this is how many pieces? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, yep, 6, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Now let's add 6 more and make another row. 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. And let's add 6 more, make another row. 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, and then 6 more, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. So I already knew that the 6 by 6 rectangle, which we call a square, will make 36 because I already worked on that one earlier. But you can double check and you can make sure you count. You will find that there are 36 pieces and there are 6 rows. Count the rows. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns, and then 6 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 36 pieces. So we know 6 by 6 is 36. 6 by 6. Then we can also do something where we can literally move 3 of these rows beside the others to make 12, and you would have a 3 by 12. We can also do something where we take rows of 4 and make a 9 by 4 rectangle. Let's show you the 9 by 4, and we'll let you build the 12 by 3 by yourselves. So can you move the bottom row, the 2 rows, and let's make a 9 by 4. So what we already have is 4 by 6. Now we're getting the 4 by 7. Okay, the first row has 9, the second row has 9, third row has 9, and the fourth row has 9. So this square, this rectangle, not a square, is 9 by 4 or 4 by 9. It's 4 rows and 9 columns. So let's write that down. And you may wonder, how did I know that? How did I know that 9 by 4 is going to be a rectangle of 36 pieces? Or that 6 by 6 is a square of 36 pieces? And the reason is that I know my multiplication tables. So it's a good thing. You might find it useful to learn how to remember the multiplication table. Let's check in our table to see what we find. Let's look for 36. It's kind of a bigger number, so you're going to find it somewhere more to the right and down. There's a 36. Now, what do you think is the number of rows here? It's 9 rows, 4 columns, or 4 columns and 9 rows. Let's find another 36, which is there's a 36. What is that? How many on each side? 6 rows and 6 columns. We made that. That rectangle is a square. Is there a one for 4? There's another 36, and that's 9 columns, 4 rows. There you have it. So there are other rectangles you can make with 36. 36 has a lot of different rectangles that you can make with it. You can make a 2 by 18, which is too big to fit in our screen. You can make a 1 by 36, very long and very narrow. And those are all still rectangles. So the ones that are in our multiplication table that we have in front of us, we have the 4 by 9, 9 by 4, and we have the 6 by 6 available to us here. So it's interesting to see how many times one number goes into, or gazinta as we talked about last time, another number. And if it goes into that number exactly, then you can make a rectangle. So that you can look at any number on this table. Let's look at a number like 56. 56, which is right there. And as you look at what kind of rectangle you can make with 56 pieces, if you go to the left, you can have 7 rows. As you go up, you can have 8 columns. So you would have a rectangle of 7 by 8. So you can look at any number on this multiplication table, and every number here shows you some kind of rectangle. Some of those rectangles will be squares because they'll have the same number of rows and columns. And the ones that can be squares are found on your multiplication table on a diagonal. If you look at the 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, those are all squares. That means with that number of tiles, you can make an exact square with the same number of rows and the same number of columns. So that was that, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. This is Ms. Xing and Ms. Padmini with the admirable help of Mr. Stephen, and that was your teachable moment.